Hi, everyone, and welcome to our December 2020 Salon. Tonight's judge is Tom Moen. Tom has been a film photographer since the mid-70s and started using digital cameras over 10 years ago. Like some of us, he belongs to a few camera clubs. 2 years ago, he was Photographer of the Year. Since then, he's placed in the top 2 or 3 overall in competition. He sold his work and had photos displayed at SMSU and at the TCA CCC spring break event. At the TCA CCC 2019 event, he placed first for contemporary
Please shut
photo
the
of
door.
warrior.
Yeah,
And in
please.
2020, he placed second for realistic, while also receiving honorable mentions for color print awards. Many of his wildlife photos have been displayed in Germany, Russia, and Ukraine. Tom uses the acronym FRUIT for judging. F for focus, point where the eye directs. R for rules, framing, rule of thirds, leading lines, and no limbs cut off, weirdly. U for uniqueness, a different perspective or unusual angle. I for interest. Does it interest me? Wow effect and emotional ties. T for technical. Proper depth of field, use of light, sharp to focus, point of interest. Thank you, Tom, for judging our salon tonight. We look forward to your comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jill. Well, this photo is too small. Use of color. All right.
So in the sixes, the photos that were rated 6, the first photo is bridge. Next slide.
Thank you. And thank you for welcoming me to the event tonight, the Salon. As one can see, this definitely made the assignment, as one can see with the fallen leaves on the road. You get the feeling of the fall, cold, wet, seeping within this photo. You can see the changing colors in the leaves. One of the things I was noticing about this is the bridge is really centered. It's centered vertical as well as horizontal. And that can be a little bit distracting in that you may want to think about repositioning the road over more to the right so it comes out of the corner, which would then move the bridge also a little bit to the right, giving a little bit different perspective on this. As we've all had it happen in the past, we have a lot of white in the sky, which causes a lot of chromatic abbreviation within the trees and the twigs and the branches. And that's one of the things that you really need to watch out for on this particular photo. Next.
Next, we have harvest.
Harvest. We have the farmer using the implements of non-motorized, using the horse-drawn motion. We have the coloring of the corn stalks as right. I'm concerned a little bit about the sky where it meets the tree line at the top. The tree line seems to be very burnt through. I'm not sure if is trying to get the clouds and the sky a little bit more involved. At this point, I think you may want to think about cropping it even down and eliminating the sky and bring it up from the bottom. So all you are doing is focusing specifically on the farmer the implement, the horse, and the harvesting of the corn. Next.
Old harvest.
Is this Old Homestead?
Yes.
Apologize. Yes. Old
Okay.
homestead.
Okay. The use of the partly cloudy day worked for this image. The assignment was fall, and the tree on the left showed that it's over for the year for that tree. There was a harsh light at the time this was taken, and you can see that on the building. I think it was burnt or it was collapsing. I'd like to have seen a more composite photo, maybe even a little bit of HDR to bring out some of that shadows within the building, and also highlight a little bit more of the windmill or the wind pump. Obviously, you'd be putting multiple images together with different f-stops on that. I think it might lead a little bit more interesting creation in the photo itself. Next.
Windy day.
This is a timed exposure of 15 seconds. It's a very good concept. The colors were accurate to the assignment of fall. There aren't any distractions, or there were some distractions of the houses in the background because they were static, and you could easily focus in on those. And your eye plays tricks with you, and it says, okay, this is too much for me. I want to look at something that I can recognize easily. And that's where the houses all of a sudden became the image to look at. As the artist, you did maybe have taken some shots at different speeds, maybe at 5, 10, 8 seconds, whatever they may be, and which looked best. I'm assuming that this one looked best to you, and that's why you're an artist. I like the idea and how you chose this particular device as far as the wind blowing through the leaves. Maybe I would have thought of taking a camera out into the field and done the same thing without having the static background of the houses. I think you had the right idea. The image just became a little bit too busy. Next.
Those rated 7s. This is after harvest.
Okay, after harvest. To me, this is really a surrealism photo, and it did meet the assignment, and the color of the plays with the color of the image with the purple sky and the very burnt orange harvest was very contrasty, and it was creative. And looking at the photo, you can see that the rules of thirds was applied. You followed that. You had a crisp foreground and an out of focus background. There are a couple of things of the vignetting and the corners, especially in the upper right and left corners, that really detracted from the overall image. But I did like the idea and the creativity on this image. Next.
Autumn on the Mississippi.
This photo, taken from a height, looking down, showed a huge spread of the photo and the differentiating of the colors of the greens, yellows, reds in the tree lines. The blue, the crispness of the blue of the river. I'm not sure exactly where this was taken on the Mississippi, but you had a good vantage point, and you had some activity going on with the barge pushing up some, what looks like some sand. One of the things that I had trouble finding through this picture was what is in focus. Is the tree line? It looks a little bit muddied in the focus area. Then I looked at the barge, and the barge is slightly out of focus. So I was trying to find the focus point that could say, okay, this is what I need to focus in on. The the overall creation of having all that activity going on and capturing that was very good. I really liked how you just didn't show a blatant Mississippi River with the tree line. You had some activity going on in the photo. Next.
Backyard oak.
I'm not a botanist, but I think there were a few different types of oaks here. You met the assignment of fall on this, and I hope you didn't get too many blisters raking up all those leaves that must have fallen after this shot. There's one situation that I need to address, and that is the overall image. I couldn't find a focal point nor a section that is in focus. And again, you know, it could be in focus, but when I brought it into Lightroom, I couldn't find a crisp focal point. There was wind, some amount of wind in the image itself, which caused movement, as you can see down in the lower right-hand corner, which is a distracting element that one needs to watch for. So in taking that effect, I'm not sure if you would crop out that or what you would do other than taking it at a faster speed, or maybe it's a little bit of barrel roll. I'm not sure exactly what has caused that image down the lower right-hand corner. Next.
Next, we have boardwalk sunset.
Boardwalk sunset. Nice starburst, which leads me to think that you closed down your iris to get that type of a starburst. Good for you. I mentioned on the other photo on the bridge, the boardwalk is dead on center, and I'd like to have seen that off to one side or the other. Maybe move a little bit over to the left. The fall, you can obviously see the fall and the color in the leaves, so you definitely met the assignment on that. And you have a very good overhang of your branches over the walkway. I might even think of pulling in closer to the image to bring out that overhang along with that beautiful tree on the left-hand side. Next.
Brilliant fall vines.
Boy, you know, I looked at this and I'm going, how the heck did that happen? You've got a stark contrast of the reds against the greens. And everywhere else there's green, except for those three trees with those vines that are end of season for them. You took it a nice vertical versus a horizontal image, so that also attracts you to look up versus across the image. It's almost, if you look at it, the trees are almost in a third of each of the frame. All of it is in sharp focus, but it doesn't lead me to want to explore a little bit more into the photo itself. I would like to have seen the background subdued more and out of focus, getting it a little bit more bokeh. And I'm not sure exactly those three trees, how they were set, if you needed to get all three in focus with a higher f-stop to attain that, or if they're all in a line. Next.
Cottonwood.
The image met the assignment, the fall. The focal point of the image is that one tree. I am concerned that with the harsh light of the day, that the image was casting some shadows in the overly bright areas. So you had the overly bright areas versus some dark areas. And there's nothing much you can really do about that if that is the time of the day that you're taking it. The background is all in shadows, and I'm not sure how that was done on that to get that, or if it was on a hill and it was just on the opposite side of the hill, and so it was all in shadow. It doesn't lead or doesn't lend to popping out that tree image. Maybe a little bit a lighter contrast in the background might have gotten that tree to pop out a little bit more. Next, please.
Fall at Wolf Creek Falls.
Yes, there's an interesting hue that you've cast over this particular photograph, and I want to, a lot of people would just go ahead and make it as realistic. This is non-realistic because there's a lot of pink introduction throughout the entire image. It did meet the assignment as far as the fall. It's a time exposure, so you got that running, glistening fall, waterfall. Depending on how you look at this particular image, you may want to crop in and get more of that waterfall as the topic of the image versus the entire scene. Do I look at the trees? Do I look at the top platform? Or am I to focus in on the falls itself? And to me, the falls is the topic that I would want to concentrate most of my attention to. Next.
Fall in Maine.
You have a foggy day. It's an area that it's remote. You're in an area that you can take a very peaceful image. You can obviously see that it's in the fall because of the orange tree in the on the right-hand side. I also noticed that in the background you had a lot of very bright orange, and that concerned me in the area that orange would probably not be seen as bright as it is. And I don't know if you highlighted the orange and so that popped out, but I think it was a detraction. I think if you would have left it as subdued as it was and just focused in on that orange tree, you would have made more of a statement with the background not trying to overshadow the foreground of the orange tree. Next.
Next is Fall in Transition.
Fall in Transition. I believe this was taken not that long ago with one of our last snowstorms. The stark color difference between the two were at play here with the very cranberry leaf along with the white snow. The artist was creative and had the right idea in their mind. A lot of people have seen this type of image before, and it can look really spectacular. Two things. Several of the entries I assume that you'll be seeing were posed, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. I don't know if this was, but thinking that if it was, could there have been some better leaves to choose from? And I hate to say that, but this leaf looks really battered. And I think if the leaf was a little bit crisp as far as a full leaf, it would have been a better selection. And then you would suggest to also, you don't need that long of a stem. You probably cut off at least a half of that. I think it's a good idea. It needs to be cleaned up just a little bit, and I think it would have been an accepted photo. Next.
Fallen Barn.
Fallen Barn. To me, this photo is the background and not the barn itself. It doesn't matter about the title in this particular instance because that is secondary to the image itself. You've got the clouds, crisp blue clouds in the background. You've got the yellow trees with the red and green, and then the tall grasses that are also changing. So you met the assignment quite readily. I don't know how you could really factually improve this unless you change the hue of the yellow of the leaves. That might increase it a little bit, but I'm not sure if it would make it an accepted photo. I do like the composition. I do like the rule of thirds, how you put the barn off to the side. Next.
Fallen leaves.
The idea that you did here was right. And the one main character is the red leaf, which is the focal point from as a judge or a observer that I would see. The colors weren't oversaturated. Those are the colors of fall, and those are the colors that you would normally see on the ground. I would like to have seen a little bit more depth of field throughout this. Although the red, I think, is the focal point, I would like to have had you gone down a little bit further into the image and brought a depth of field from front to back. Just a little bit more creative difference, but otherwise that's the right idea. Next.
Homer and Marge Simpson like to go skinny dipping at Hidden Falls.
A couple years ago, I took in the fall the same picture. There's a little bit more water back then, and so I'm familiar with some of those rocks in the formation. It's hard to say what is the focal point. It is the falls, but there's not a lot of water in the falls to really do dramatic effect. It is a timed exposure, as you can see. There's multiple colors at play there. The leaves on right underneath the fall are very iridescent, or they really pop out. So you've captured that fall look on this particular photo. You've gotten the yellows. I also, when we went, was a cloudy day, and so it wasn't a real great day for capturing some sparkling waterfall. Next, please.
Julian Bay, Stockton Island.
You know, as we all know, there's a limited amount of acceptances. This was one of those ones where it was touch and go whether or not it was an accepted photo or not. You invoke the rule of thirds and going to the side of the image with the trees and the rocks. You have the sun that is not centered. It's up high in the top third. You've got the reflection on the water. You've got movement in the waves. They're not really waves, but just the movement of the water. And you've got a good cloud formation. I like that the sun did not get burnt out. Although when you look at it, it is the thing that draws you first to it. But with the tree line, it really smacks that's the focal point of interest, is the tree line with the rocks and not the sun. Next.
Morning fog.
Morning fog. Overall, the image was well composed. This is a good use of splitting the horizon 50-50. And judge after judge will tell you that's not to do, but in some cases it works. And I feel in this photograph, it worked. The foreground is in sharp focus. The use of the reflections is good. Where I had difficulty is, and I don't know if you can see it on your screens, but there was some color banding above the tree that's out in that little island where you've got purple and green and some blue, and that distracted me, and it detracted from the overall image. And I'm not sure if you can clean that up in post, but I think if you do clean that up in post, this could be very well an accepted photo. Next.
Shed in fall.
Shed and fall. The play on grays and foliage turning brown and red helped visualize the season to me. While looking at this, it became a little bit busy with hard to focus on what is the main focal point. Is it the foreground or is it the shed? What draws my attention to this particular image? The flowers are sharp, and you did meet the assignment. I would think that if you can change the color, and this is just a preference as a judge, change the color of the shed a little bit, darker gray, it might help the image to be an accepted photo. Next.
Solitary leaf.
I believe that this leaf is dead or dying, and that met the assignment. Using monochrome for the fall assignment is tricky, but I think you did it. I've learned for some reason when a shot like this is taken, you might try flipping it so the stem comes from the left-hand side. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. In the earlier leaf picture, it was coming from the left, and for some reason, the left image might help direct you a little bit differently. Just try it and see what it looks like and see what it looks like to you. I wonder if you'd resubmit it in color, if it might improve the score. I don't know what the stump looks like at all, but take a look at that. Okay. Next. Sumac. The image met the assignment. Had a nice bouquet background. I'd like to have seen more of the image than just the two cross branches. I pull out more to see more of interest within what is the overall picture look like. I think this was a little bit too cropped in together. I think you captured the assignment very well with the color change and the yellows, the reds, and a little bit of the orange. And especially like how the background is completely obliterated. So the focal area is what you're seeing up front. Next.
The door.
The door. This was a tough one. I knew exactly what you're going for, and everything in the image was sharp and in focus. Even the reflection was sharp. It was hard to pull off an image like this because of the lines in the door. The idea had excellent merit, and the idea was sound. If you look at the bottom quarter of the glass and the door, that is what I think you're trying to accomplish. You don't see the intersecting lines. You see the walkway, the tall grass, and the bottom of the tree. I think if that was able to be carried throughout the entire image, this would have been easily an accepted photo. The lines of the door brought it down. Otherwise, good attempt. Thank you. Next.
The road home.
You obviously can see that change in the color met the assignment of the assignment, the color fall. It's always interesting to see what changes first and what doesn't change. You've got some tree tops further down, and you've got close up, you've got a lot of foliage that is turned. But then you look across the street and there's not. So you've got a lot of function going on as far as what happens during fall. So I can see that that's appreciated. To me, the road, as I've said before, needs to be pulled over a little bit more. It's coming right from the center, and then it goes off into nothingness. The clouds, as far as the clouds are concerned, the colors are a little bit off, and I'm would like to have you work a little bit on that to get that clouds a little bit more distinctive and more natural, because the rest of the scene is very natural, but the clouds don't seem as natural as they should be. Next.
Willow River Falls.
Willow River Falls. You've got at the top of the falls, the timed exposure. You've got some nice, clean white falls. But if you look at that closely, you see a purple line at the top. Indication a little bit of oversaturation. I think the overall scene from it, for me, what captured me first was the top left. Then I came down, I'm following the stream itself, and I'm seeing the secondary falls right in front of me with the rocks. So you've gotten a lot of the artifacts correct as far as what leads you through the entire photo. However, there are some dynamics, as I said before, as far as the saturation and the blue water on the lower left-hand corner is not natural for me, and it sort of, for me, was distracting. I like the overall image. I like the composure on this. I think if you readjust some of the coloring and getting rid of that purple line at the top of the falls, this would be an accepted photo.
These are the ones that scored 8, and I'll be announcing the names of the photographer as well. This is Autumn Colors by Mary Johnson.
I really like this photo because it has patches of vibrant colors intertwined with dark, powerful, solid black of the actual tree. There's a good play on the focus up front that green leaf is very much in focus, and as you go further back, things become out of focus. It moves you in and out of the frame nicely. I think it's a well done picture, and congratulations.
Back Road by Melissa Anderson.
Melissa, I like how you got down near the ground. I mentioned that in another photo, is getting down and taking photos on this. And so that is well done. So many of us forget that simple technique, and it's just something to also carry in your bag of tricks. Your day was wet and overcast, which lent to no high contrast shots, but a clear venue to experiment with settings that were just right for you. I'm sure you took lots of photos to make sure you got it just right. It was also fortunate that there wasn't any traffic to mat down those leaves. They looked like they were just recently fallen leaves. The composition was great. Vibrance was spot on, and interest and technique were correct. A very good image, Mary. Melissa, sorry.
Contemplative Beagle by Sarah Hefty.
Sarah, I liked how you blended the image to the leaves. The puppy dog, has got the brown and the dark gold and other colors, which was reflective on the leaves in the background. The puppy was nonplussed with you taking his picture or her picture. It's okay, get it over with. I'll hold still for a little bit. He was in sharp focus because he was the emphasis of the picture, not the leaves. The leaves were secondary part of the image. It's a nice double background of the fallen leaves. Well done. Thank you. Next.
Dreamy Fall Day by Melissa Anderson.
Melissa, you've done something I probably have seen 2 other times in competition, and that is a frame picture. Nice elements and very creative. Because of that simple trick, as a judge, the image was framed for me. I only looked at what the artist wanted me to look at. Everything else to the sides was secondary. The stream flowing through the river, I think the stream was flowing into the river. The colors are subdued and natural, like looking out an actual window. And I think that's maybe your intent was with the frame. Kept my interest. You got all the rules, and the overall, it's unique. Congratulations.
Droplets on a Gold Leaf by Mary Johnson.
Mary, this is very creative. Lots of water droplets on that leaf, and it almost looked like there was a pattern going on that you overlaid those droplets on the leaf. The reason I say this is because if you look at the left-hand side of the leaf, it's sort of curled up and wouldn't the water maybe run off. But the composition, the starkness of the dark asphalt on the gold leaf was spot on. And I think it was a very creative composition for this photo. Next.
Maple Leaf in the Wet Snow by Dawn Speck.
Don, I was taken back by photographing the backside of the leaf. You don't often see that, and good idea in doing that. I like the subdued coloring. It's not overly bright. I mean, it is the backside of the leaf itself. It gave a coarse fall impression. I think with a little bit less water droplets, this may have increased the score, just as the previous one had a little bit too many drops on it. Next.
Road to Copper Harbor, Michigan by Steve Cole.
Steve, I felt when I saw this picture, I felt I was in my mom's old Ford Country Squire in the 70s station wagon, and the way back, riding on this highway road, weaving in and out of the tree line. It just brought a good feeling, a clean feeling of something from my past. There was good saturation throughout the photograph with the orange and the yellow and the green. It kept my interest throughout the entire image. It came from the left-hand side, wove into the center, and back out towards the left. Technically, it's correct, and it's unique. Congratulations.
Split Rock Lighthouse by Mike Schroon.
Mike, we've all been there, and each image of this iconic image is judged against itself and not any that we have seen or come before. So keep that in mind. This has good saturation of the fall forest and focused depth of field front to back. The assignment was fall and not a little fall, and how should I say this? It was about the fall. It wasn't about the lake. It wasn't about the lighthouse. It was what you focused on, the tree line on the left-hand side of the image. When you do the saturation, start moving sliders, you sometimes get purple or green lines appearing on the edges of high contrast areas. And this is seen a little bit in the far rocks on the lighthouse itself. But be a little careful with that. If you print or enlarge this image, they'll show up. But at this size, and it won't. Next.
A Walk in the Colors by Sarah Niemanen.
Okay. I've got it, but I've got one. I've got another one that I thought we'd change the order, but we'll have to come back to it. Taking a Walk in the Colors by Sarah. Sarah, I come in from the right and continue through the photo, and the colors are spot on. There's interest throughout the entire image. There's a touch of red far off in the distance, if you can see that just touching the rail. I know it's far off in the distance, it's actually not touching the rail. I might have toned that down just a little bit and make, as an observer, if it attracts my attention, I'm not looking at what's happening to the right or to the left of the image. So I'm not taking anything off, and I'm just saying that if you submit this to other competitions, I would just take off that that red a little bit. Thank you.
These ones are rated 9. And we have Blown in the Wind by Don Specht.
Blowing in the Wind. All right. Whether this image was staged or not, it's wonderful. Big, strong plant coming from the far right corner, drifting the eye to follow up on the secondary object, the feathered seedling coasting in the wind. It's hard to say what one could do to make this a 10 other than the background being less dark, so the plant and seed pop out more than they already are. This is a very, very fabulous photo, and I wish I could have taken it myself. Thank you.
Foggy Cabin by Kelly Perry.
Kelly, it's another fog bank coming in and gives the artist a good scene to shoot right, and they did. Although the decrepit shack might be the focal point, one wanders straight through to the forest to see an opening to walk through. There is no chromatic aberration in the branches, which is hard to accomplish with this type of contrast. And I looked, and you did it just right in camera, or possibly in post-processing, but this is a good, clean picture. Congratulations.
Raining Leaves by Fred Sabatka.
Can you feel the joy in this picture? Very good technique of using the model and throwing the leaves up and letting them fall. I don't know how many times you attempted that and got it, but you got it in camera, and that's the emphasis on this. The focus is on the model, but the leaves are secondary and just as important into the shot itself. Colors were excellent, and since I brought all of them into Photoshop, I saw that they were using an ISO of 1000. The luminance was corrected, and the grain was taken out, and you didn't lose iota as far as the detraction of anywhere in this photo. I think you're going to enjoy this image for a long time.
White Trio by J. Olson Good.
White Trio, lovely, absolutely lovely. I liked how you captured in a vertical versus horizon of this shot. I'm assuming this is a very tall hill that you took the shot of. The three leaning birch trees at the bottom shoot you up through the image to the top of the red oak, which I assume is an oak. It could be a different species. You had a spattering of yellow and gold here and there, which broke up the image so as not to be strict monochrome. And that is the niceness of the image itself, is that it could have been a monochrome, but it just had enough to make it pop. It's a really excellent photo. Congratulations, Jay.
This one scored 10. Fall Abstract, Marge Springett.
Okay, like in the Olympics, I don't give out many 10s. But when I opened this up, it screamed a 10 to me. Now, many of you are scratching your heads thinking, what? But it takes daring to try this. But moreover, it did convey the assignment very, very well. As an observer, and I'm looking at birches in the bottom, maybe fall leaves, or even uncut tall grasses. It had my complete fruit focus, rules, uniqueness, interest, and technique from top to bottom. Marge, congratulations.
These were under the creative category. This is a 6. Red Splendor in Pepin.
In any image that it needs to be sharp, at least in one area. And if you have detractions in other areas, it sometimes overpowers what the viewer sees. I like the color at play in the image, the red splendor. The detraction comes from the background overpowering the foreground, and your eye has trouble focusing on the subject matter. Is the red foreground, or is it the red background. It got a little bit confusing for me.
These ones scored 7. This is Fall Celebration in Stockholm.
One of the philosophy in creative is that anything goes. I like the treatment of filters used to get the grain effect throughout the entire image. You capture the connection of the orange flowers to the pumpkin below. I believe the artist's focal point is the flowers and not the pumpkin. I believe that the background image, blue and purple on the right, became a little bit of a distraction to me, and it took me off the main subject of the flower and pumpkin. I see that the gear wheel is also competed with the round pumpkin. So not in competition per se, but yet you've got two round things, and which one should I focus on, the gear or the pumpkin? This is good light capture throughout the entire image, except for that purple and blue on the right-hand side. Next, please.
My world is not your toy.
Another introduction of creative images that are pulled together. The idea is provocative but thoughtful. When combining images, one needs to realize that sharp edges against a soft image, as in this example, the stark cube line to the palm of the hand, can cause a conflict. I think that you may want to feather the edges or soften the edges of the cube more dramatically to set the image up for an acceptance. This will take a lot of Photoshop work or whoever service that you use to make it flow together, but the subject and your idea needs to be presented. It's very thoughtful, and it's thought-provoking. Next.
Spellbound.
Spellbound. I haven't said this before, but all the creative images were great, and I wish that I could have accepted them all. But I had to cut a set amount of images down to acceptances. This image kept my interest throughout. I was wondering how in the world this woman or girl created this swirl at the top. Was it something that she threw up and it came down, or what? The image was well taken, kept viewers' interest, was true to the name, Spellbound. There's almost a Fibonacci path to the swirls that were made. Next.
These are the 8s. This is Still Life by Pat Chicones. This is the one that we missed earlier, or that you thought you missed.
Okay. That's what I thought was moved into the assignment from yesterday. But the painterly effect looks great. Good selection of artifact leaves, buds, flowers on a solid background. It was good that you took a chance and cropped it down and not just had something flat against a surface. To me, the bottom part looks horizontal and the rest looks like it's on a wall. If you look at it closely, it looks like it's bent up. I'm sure it's an illusion, but it's an attractive illusion to the picture. It gives a good sense that that there was more than just all these items laying flat on a surface, on a flat surface. Next.
White Water Lily by Don Specht.
Okay, here we go again with the painterly effect. I love your club for the remarkable way you take your images and dare to be different and exciting. This lily bloom is great with a partial opening versus a fully open bloom. That's good. I like that, to see something different. I'd mask out or really tone down the top right corner. It leads me away from the focal point. I know it's a lily pad, but I don't think it adds that half moon or quarter moon at the top right corner. I don't think it leads anything or helps the image any more than keeping it in. Next.
Next would be the nines, Butterfly on Cone Flower by Marianne Derricks.
Again, the paint effect. It's a beautiful contrast of image when you have the butterfly that has the eye socket for the birds that can see different wavelengths than we can. We know that that's spooking something out so it doesn't attack it. The cone flower is, I'm assuming that this is probably done a little bit, not in the summer, but late summer, because of the way the leaves are bent down. It's nearly a painting. It has distinct colors from the red in the bottom half to your browns and oranges into the top half, as well as the green background image. There was a little bit, it looks like there's a little bit of vignetting, which was very good, that it wasn't overly vignetted, and that's why it got a 9. Congratulations, Marion.
Liftoff by Melissa Anderson.
When a photo becomes a painting, this is what it looks like. I don't know how many of you went to the State Fair Fine Arts this year. You had to buy a ticket to go in through, but one of the things that I was walking through the State Fair was I'd be looking at what I thought was a photo, and I'd come up to it and it's a painting, or I'd come up to it, think of a painting, and it was a photo. This was the reversal. This image was that type of compliment in that it does look like a painting. It just has great imagery. The lights, the focal point, the eye was sharp. It had the catch light in it, which again is needed in a lot of nature photos. The movement of the background only helped the image to succeed with how it was expressed. Congratulations, Melissa.
Moving into the nature category, these scored 7. This is Cascading Falls.
I'm betting this wasn't taken up north. I'm just kidding. I don't know where it was taken, but the Cascading Falls. The focal plane is consistently sharp front to back. The timed exposure was at the right avenue to take. It's good for you that you did at that particular time frame. I think because of the slightly saturation of the colors, some of the rocks lost their original coloring and became more red than what was in real life. I'd crop a third of the right-hand side out. I don't think it's necessary in this photo. The greenery is a little bit overpowering on the right, lower right-hand side. It sort of loses me to the focal point of the actual falls itself. Next.
Cedar Waxwing.
Cedar waxwings are beautiful birds. You've caught one looking at you, and I see you've kept the object in the top third, which is a good rule to follow. You have great space all around the bird, so your post-processing is good. As an observer, one would think that the sharpness slider might have been used a little bit much because the feathering looks unnatural. I'm not sure it caused you in doing so, but it detracted from a really great subject. I like taking photos of waxwings, and it's good. Okay, I'm sorry. Next.
Clearing Storm.
This is a good image. It's strong. You've got the rainbow. You've got the, not sure where this was taken, but you've got the landscape in shadow. You have it in bright shadow from the clouds, and then you have the bright opening of the sun along with the rainbow. It just, against some of the other images, it wasn't as strong as some of the others. I would think that if you get some more contrast in the clouds themselves, it might improve it into an accepted photo. Next.
This is Crystallized Evergreens.
This image was telling me a lot. I really needed to see more depth of field, or as I said, previous and other photos, photos stacked 3 or 4 images to get about a ½ inch of sharpness. When I looked at this closely, it just seemed that the only thing that was in focus was the very tip of that orange bud of that of the evergreen. The colors were on target, the subject was inviting, and the contrast of the orange, green, and white crystals made the image pop. It's almost there. I mean, you're so close. If you get a chance, try it again. Or if you have some additional images that you might be able to stack together, I would try that. Otherwise, you're so close. Next.
Merganser liftoff.
Sharp in focused image. One can see the tiny water droplets on the breast of the bird. The detail on the wings is remarkable. One can look at the reflection in the water below and see the bird. The deep blue water helped tell the story. Where I had difficulty was why most of the head is in shadow except for just below the eye and part of the head. It threw me off from a nice flight of the bird, and I'm not sure if that was a natural, and I apologize if it was natural, but it looks like it shouldn't be there. Next.
Mesquite Dunes.
Another close one. Talk about leading lines. Throughout the image, sharp, crisp lines are drawn by nature. All over, aren't they? The desert falling into the distance of the mountains. The rule of thirds may have been slightly broken as the dune took up 1/2 and the mountains and sky the other half. As a judge, I was looking to see that the foreground dunes were in sharp focus and the far range was out of focus, or that everything was in focus by photostacking a few images together. Please check the blue sky when you look at this. The clouds at the top, the wispy clouds, I don't know what is going on there, but it was a distraction as a viewer. As I said, it's just about there. Next.
We have prairie dog giving thanks at Theodore Roosevelt National Park.
So I just got back from the Badlands and Theodore Roosevelt Park last Tuesday night. And these little critters are almost everywhere. He's telling us a little story of praying for another tasty meal, I bet. I like to see a bit more space in front of him or her, better to balance, and maybe a little bit more at the top. If you look at, you can see the whisker, the black whisker that is just about touching the top, and maybe getting a little bit more space at the top. I think in doing those things will make it an acceptance next time. It is a good capture.
Remember spring.
Who couldn't love this nearly newborn deer? The image was an effect of sleeping, gives you the effect of sleepiness in his eye, in their eyes, and you can feel the animal relaxing and wanting to go to sleep. It is a capture that gives a mood in the image. Clearly had a good bokeh in the background. Sharpness was evident in the head and the shoulders. Had a nice fade of sharpness where you expect it to be in the body. I might need additional highlights and exposure to the head and neck to bring that out a little bit more. A little bit too much in the shadow. Touch more space in front of the deer if you have that space for this to become an acceptance. Next.
Sitting on the rocks in the bay.
This photo reminded me of a time I had the difficult problem of having a great story with multiple birds in an image that looked great, but every time I looked at it, it just didn't look right, and I couldn't figure it out. So I posted it on my screensaver, so anytime I looked at my screen, I looked at it. This image is sharp focal point, and it's evident. Rules are okay, even though the horizon is at the midpoint of the picture. Technically is done well. So why didn't it get accepted? I would suggest what I ended up doing to my photo was cutting the right side pelican out and focusing on just the two on the right, which would entail some additional cropping and bottoming to balance out the image. But I think if you'd pulled into the shot, forgot about that right pelican and just focused on the two, this would have been an accepted photo. Next.
Swan.
The day was cloudy from the clouds, and there was no contrast image, so the swans didn't really pop out. I'd expect a little bit more white in the coloring of the swans, but maybe early in the spring and after well, this is really not early spring; it's probably early summer. There would have been a little bit more color into the swans themselves. The clouds in the back could be less contrasty, and the coloring of the blue in the clouds is a little bit off as far as the amount. Changing the hue would probably be something that you'd want to think about. The image is of the swans, and the sky, you don't need as much sky when the image of the swans is so prevalent. Next.
These are the 8s. This is Baby Killdeer by Carl Wagner.
Okay, stop and tell me which of you said, ah, cute, when this image showed up. Okay, now let's take a look at the presentation. This little bird is totally in focus. Look at the legs, and you can see the individual Mars or the pieces within the leg itself. I'm not coming up with the name itself. The white fuzz isn't sharp and clear. The bird is not on center. It's just slightly off. There's plenty of space in the front, top, and center. Although there's not a catch eye light, the image is correct overall and kept my interest to wanting to look more at the little bird itself. Carl, very good. Thank you. Next.
His Bathtub by Marge Springett.
Marge, is he surprised, or is the name said his bathtub? The focal point of interest is the head and breast. There should be motion in the water and the wings as seen in this image when they're flapping. You've gotten that right. The background was out of focus, so it was not distracting. There was a catchlight in the eye, and the coloring of the water, bird, and lily was spot on. Although it is centered, the activity on the horizontal plane of the water really was acceptable to break the center image. Next.
Loon Pair Nesting by Marge Springett.
It looked to me that the one loon on the nest was not happy with the other loons scurrying away. It just looked like, what are you doing? Although neither of the loons had much catch eye light, it's okay because I believe it was because it was a cloudy day. The eyes were very visible and sharp. A lot of loon pictures I've seen don't get that eye because it's so, how am I trying to say this? It gets into the actual, the head itself. The coloring of feathers weren't oversaturated. Sometimes they oversaturate and the whites become blues. The texture of the feathers on each were sharp. I'd go back and think of what the one bird on the nest must be thinking, and that is really telling the story of the picture, of the image. So there's a large story happening with that look of that one bird. I give you credit on getting as close as you did to capture the scene. If anything, you might want to increase the exposure a bit, add back in more space in the front lead loon. It's very close to the edge, and you might want to put a little bit more space in there. And then a little slight vignetting in the corners could make this pop even more. Congratulations, Marge.
Snow Geese by Betty Bryan.
Nice flock. You've got the stop motion. I forgot to write down on my notes what you took this at, but you've got them all in mid-flight. You've got them grouped together. Sometimes it's hard to get focus on all birds in a flock because you have different heights, you've got different depths, and you did it all there. What's surprising is that they are all in focus, but yet you got a lot of good bokeh in the background, which is sometimes difficult if you're using a f-stop of 8, 9, 10, or 11. So congratulations on that. Colors are consistent with what they should be. All the birds, the white pop out in the picture, and it's a good contrast. Congratulations, Betty.
This one rated 9. This is Launching by Melissa Anderson.
Melissa, to me, this bird's wings are too small to carry them very far. I don't know if they can even fly. This is a quick, short story. Can the bird fly, or are they walking on top of the bush? There was a catchlight in the eye and a very determined face of the bird, which is also a part of the story. Great all-around composure, and the subject was remarkable. Earlier, I talked about blowing in the wind with the background, a touch dark. The picture of the blowing in the wind with maybe that was a little bit too dark. This is just the right amount of coloring for this photo. Congratulations, Melissa.
This one's rated 10. Red-Headed Woodpecker with Worm by Don Speck.
Okay, just to be totally clear, I'm so jealous of the maker of this image. This is one woodpecker that has eluded me. I haven't had the opportunity to photograph one ever. And I looked at this and see everything a birder and photographer pines to see. Your focal point, the structure on the tree, the activity of the worm or the insect that they have, keeping your interest. It's not a static image. It's vibrant in colors that are not saturated, something that anyone could hang on their walls. Congratulations, Don.
This is the pictorial category. These are 6s. Prairie Clouds.
Prairie clouds. As I mentioned before, shooting clouds is a tassel with exposure, speed, and contrast. The effort of seeing this in your mind's eye and then producing these bank of clouds is daunting. Sometimes you need to pull out a polarizer filter to get the right depth of cloud formation. Maybe wait later in the day and get a sunset clouds. In pictorial, the camera does the work, not the processing, so you need to use more creative tools when taking the picture with that in mind. But I do commend your effort. I think this could have been an excellent accepted photo with some in-camera processing. Next.
Selfie Girl.
Good street photography. Did you get more than one shot of this scene? The contrast of monochrome was acceptable with the subject. The hat and the cell phone, all dark parts of the subject. I've discussed fruit when I judge photos, and the R stands for rules and T for technique. Her face, or at least one of her eyes, need to be in focus, and there was movement in the image that made it a little bit too soft. Check your speed, and if the ISO needs to creep up, that's okay. A little bit more noise in the image is acceptable, but a sharp focus makes a big difference. Next.
Surrealism on a Calm Fall Day.
Surrealism caught me off guard on this one. The sky was bright and undefined, and the water and the cloud reflection was another. It's rational to think that the water reflected the sky, but this doesn't ergo make it an irrational image of surrealism. You have two conflicting things. Why isn't one reflecting the other? That's part of the surrealism. And I appreciate that and realize that that is what you were probably intending on this. I hope it was. The one thing I wanted to see was the bridge or the tree on the left side in sharp focus. Something needed to be more in focus than just the water. I needed the, I think if you update the technique, update it a little bit and remove the ceramic, I'm getting dry mouth here, excuse me. Ceramic abbreviation and it'll bring a little bit more to the image. If you look at the bridge, you can see some greens and some reds on that, and that affected the overall photo. All right, next, please.
These are sevens, bald eagle flight.
It's good capture. I mean, you don't often see an eagle with an open mouth squawking. I should assume that they're squawking about something. They're in flight. It's good contrast in the background. You've got good coloring. You didn't make the feathers too brown or too black. The white crispness of the head and the tail were quite evident. And there was a good contrast between the eagle and the background of the sky itself. There is, okay, thank you. that was it. Thank you.
So next we have balustrade.
Okay. The framing of the image was centered. The contrast of the red, blue, green, and white contrast came out vividly. There are certain colors that draw your attention, and the vibrant red on the left side captured my attention. Even though you can't run up and change the image prior to its capture, the red flower need to be more impactful against the white balustrades. The overall green leaves detracted from the overall image in this particular photo. Next.
Clover.
I like the portrait shot of the head of the horse. You got the catchlight in the eye and not yourself. I mean, you don't see yourself in the reflection, which happens a lot with us photographers. The ears are standing up, which you want to see in horses and that do this type of thing, and not down or relaxed. The image is still with no movement. I'd like to have more exposure level in the horse's head, either in the Lightroom or Photoshop. When I said my acronym FRUIT, R was for rules, and this to me, as a judge, does not look level. And so that took the score down. Next.
Fall leaves on fallen heroes.
You've got a beautiful picture here, probably Fort Snelling, and you've taken it into the fall. You've got one tree that's very vibrant, and you've got some other side trees that are complementary. You've got beautiful stacking of the stones in unison, and then you have a plane, which I would have probably waited until that passed to take the picture. Although it's a nice element, it doesn't add anything into the image. It actually detracts from the image. Next.
Fire station.
A night shot, as you easily can see, of New Richmond fire and rescue. Nothing is really happening there. So I'm looking to see what is the point of interest. Should I be looking at the garage doors, or should I be looking at the main entrance, the flag, or the water tower? I need to have what is my focal interest, and that's part of the F in the fruit to lead me to look more in depth into the photo. Next.
Full moon rising.
The rules were set up in this photo. The moon was coming up over the trees, but I think that you should have waited a little bit longer so the moon was fully in the picture over the trees and just slightly over the bridge. The framing of the trees was good to help draw the viewer on the trees on the left and the right-hand side. It helps draw you into the picture. I'm wondering if the focal image is of the bridge or is it of the moon? And the name suggests the moon. The name suggests it is the moon. And I might have wanted to see a lot less bridge and a lot more moon. It gets a little bit hidden as it stands now. Next.
Quadici Pavilion.
I'm glad you said that because I could never get that word right. Architectural buildings that are abstract can be difficult to know and shoot. Many times when I've traveled, I've reviewed previous shot images and see what interests me and how those images were shot. This image is interesting. As we all know, the weather is what it is, and at the time of the shot, the difficulty is to see if there's a better time of the day to take an image when you realize the sky is not doing you justice for the image. Would an early morning or a sunset shot help bring out the features in the image? With some photos, one can't get away from the distractions like roof antennas. But like as an artist, you have the ability to move away and to shoot it at different angles that it may hide those distractions on roof lines. I like that you got the people in the shot that shows the depth and size of the structure. Some people, and I've been guilty of this, don't have any reference point as far as this immensity, and this does with those people. So good for you for thinking of that to incorporate that into your image.
Salton Sea Swing.
The image is minimalist in nature. It's a lone object. The subdued light treatment of the blues carries the picture throughout. I was wondering if you took other images from different vantage points or if there was a child or person available on to the swing. May have made this a touch more interesting. Be sure to check that there isn't too much sky, which I believe there is in this picture. Unless, of course, the center of focus is far in the distance, and so the sky touches like the water or the tree line. That would make a significant difference in this particular photo. Next.
White Sands.
Okay, just a second. I went a little bit too far here. I like the idea of monochrome for this image. I believe that the contrast of sands against the mountains was a good idea. I'd go back and see what you can do to create more contrast between the sand and the mountains. The 3D image of out of focus mountains is cool while utilizing a crisp textured dune in the foreground to reduce the sharpness of the dunes, but keep the texture. I should say, reduce the sharpness of the mountains and increase the sharpness of the dunes with added texture. Next.
These are eights. Aurora Glow by Marianne Derricks.
Marianne, congratulations. You've got some nice dancing neon, not neon, but Aurora Borealis. You've got the stars in there. So you've got a lot of, you have an astrophotography, you have to give up something. In this picture, this image, you haven't really given up anything. You've got the Aurora Borealis, you've got the reflection on the lake, you've got the dock in the lake, plus you have the stars and you don't have any streaks of stars. So all in all, you combined all of them together to make a very, very good photo.
LaSalle Mountains, Moab, Utah view.
This monochrome image is full of contrast. Foreground, deep blacks, mountain slopes, dark gray, and the mountaintops to the clouds are white. This is an accepted photo because it shows grandeur and size. It meets the focal point of the white-capped mountains. It followed the rules. It's unique in as much as the weathered clouds. It kept my interest all the way to find the lone cacti over on the left-hand side. And the technique that was used for post-processing was spot on. Thank you. Next.
I want to give credit back to Steve Cole on that last photo. This one here is Running into the Light by Mick Richards.
Mick, this got accepted. Again, I talked about the starburst earlier. You've got the starburst on this. You've got good saturation and color exactness of the leaves. You've got and the arch of the tree that's bending over the path itself, and you've got the interest of the runner moving through the image. Although the image path is in the center, you've got the center of focus more on the right-hand side versus the center. So I know this is different than some of the road pictures that were taken, but this one did it well. And you've got, you just took a very good picture. Next.
Sunflower Black and White by Betty Bryan.
Betty, you don't see too many sunflowers in monochrome, and you did it. Obviously, sunflowers are themselves very easily recognized. This is recognized. You would probably, if you can, add a little bit more space to the left-hand side. And we're not talking a great deal, but just a little bit more space onto the left if it's available to you. The focus and sharpness of the leaves and the flower itself are spot on. Thank you.
Waves by Mike Schroon.
Mike, this is for everybody. Can you feel the cold spray of the water in this image? I can, and that is what makes the story so strong in this image. Capturing the right moment of the spray and including the frozen bush made you feel the depth of the cold and what it must have been for Mike taking this photo. The light beacon in the back addresses that this is not a small body of water. I might have added a filter to your camera and see how the clouds and water would look like. But out of the camera photo, this is exceptional. Next.
These last ones are rated 9s. COVID Haircut by Pat Chiconis.
I feel for this bird. It's a good name for the image, and it met all my fruit acronym. It's a curious picture in that you're wondering, the birds think, because the bird looks like it's thinking about something, and it's probably not its hair. It's thinking about whatever. The entire photo image of the bird is in focus. You've got a little bit of a catch light, the depth of field and the bokeh in the background makes it so the neck and the head pops out. Coloring of the eye is nice orangey gold. So this is a very good picture, Pat. Congratulations.
Soulful Friend by Sarah Hefty.
This is a story within a story. And take a look at this photo. You can see the reflection of the bird feeder in the eye. Is that where his interest, the dog's interest lies, or does it lie in the photographer that is taking the picture? Where I work, you can have an image of whatever you'd like to have of yourself. And I took a nearly identical image like this, but cropped it in just around the eye and the eyelashes, and it was in color. However, I like this image better, and the treatment of the monochrome was great. Wonderful image, excellent story with the reflection. If you didn't anticipate the reflection in the eye, don't tell anybody. Let them think you're a genius. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Is that the last one, Sarah?
Yes, it was. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop recording.